Welcome back to the Better Humans Project podcast. I'm Greg Pfeiffer, and I'm really glad you're here today because today's episode might just be the permission slip you didn't know you needed. We're talking about slowing down, living life in the slow lane. And I want to say up front, this is not an episode about being lazy or giving up on ambition or even retreating from the world. It's almost the opposite. It's about what happens when you stop treating speed as a virtue in itself. When you start to question the assumption that faster is always better, that busier means more important, that a packed schedule is proof of a life well lived. Because here's what I've noticed, and I suspect you've noticed it too. Most of us are exhausted. Not just tired, exhausted in a way that sleep doesn't quite fix. Stretched thin across too many commitments, too many screens, too many notifications. Moving so fast through our days that we barely register what's in them. And something interesting is actually happening culturally in response to that. People are pushing back. They're baking bread, they're gardening, they're taking the long way home. There's a whole movement, you might have even heard of it, called the slow movement. And it's been quietly growing for decades now, showing up in food, in travel, in design, in parenting, in the way people are beginning to think about work. Today, we're going to explore all of it: the psychology of slowing down, the physical and social benefits of a slower pace, the way our modern lives push us towards speed, and the very real cost of that. And we're going to get practical. How do you actually slow down right now, this week, and over the longer arc of your life? So let's begin. Before we talk about slowing down, it's worth understanding why we sped up in the first place. Because the forces driving our pace of life are real, structural, and often invisible to us. The Industrial Revolution began the process of tying human life to the clock. Before factories, most people worked seasonally, in rhythms set by nature: dawn and dusk, harvest and winter. The factory changed all that. Time became money. Efficiency became a moral virtue. To be idle was to be wasteful. To be busy was to be good. That cultural inheritance has only deepened in the digital age. Smartphones mean we are reachable and expected to be reachable around the clock. Email, social media, and messaging apps have collapsed the boundaries between work and rest, between public life and private time. We receive, on average, dozens to hundreds of notifications per day. Each one is a small interruption. Each one says, respond, react, stay on top of it, don't fall behind. Add to this what sociologists call time pressure, the widespread feeling that there isn't enough time to do everything that needs doing, and you have a culture in a chronic state of low grade urgency, a culture that has normalized stress, that treats busyness as a status symbol, and that subtly shames people who dare to move slowly. Research by Columbia Business School found that in modern Western culture, being busy has replaced leisure as a marker of social status. We signal our importance through our packed schedules. But the same research found that this relationship between busyness and status is largely absent in European cultures, suggesting that this is a cultural construct, not an inevitability. We built this cage, we can also open it. Psychologically, the imperative to slow down is grounded in some of the most important research of the last 3 decades. So let me walk you through the key ideas. When we are constantly rushing, we're operating in a low-grade stress response. The sympathetic nervous system, the fight or flight system, stays partially activated. Cortisol levels remain elevated, and this is not a neutral state. Over time, chronic stress impairs memory, reduces creativity, narrows our thinking, and erodes our capacity for empathy and nuanced decision making. We literally think less well when we are rushing. Psychologist Daniel Kahneman's work on fast and slow thinking is relevant here. He described two modes of cognition. System 1, which is fast, automatic, and intuitive, and System 2, which is slow, deliberate, and analytical. In a state of constant urgency, we default to System 1, reactive, pattern matching, and prone to bias. Slowing down, quite literally, gives System 2 a chance to engage. We make better decisions. We see more clearly. We respond rather than react. There are moments in life when the need to slow down is not optional, it is urgent. Burnout is the most dramatic of these. Characterized by emotional exhaustion, depersonalization, and a sense of reduced personal accomplishment, burnout is the psychological and physiological result of sustained, unrelenting pace without adequate recovery. Once you're in full burnout, the body essentially forces the slowdown, often through illness, emotional collapse, or complete inability to function. But there are gentler signals that come before burnout, signs worth learning to read. Persistent irritability, difficult being present, a sense of going through the motions, loss of pleasure in things that used to bring joy, chronic fatigue that doesn't respond to rest, racing thoughts at night. These are your nervous system's early warning system, and they are worth taking seriously before they escalate. Grief, major life transitions, illness, and loss are also moments when life itself demands a slower pace. And when fighting that demand, as many people try to, tends to prolong the suffering rather than ease it. There's a deeper psychological reason to slow down beyond just avoiding burnout. It has to do with where happiness actually lives. A landmark Harvard study by Kenningsworth and Gilbert found that people are less happy when their minds are wandering than when they are fully present, regardless of what they are doing. A mind not in the present moment is, on average, an unhappy mind. And speed is one of the primary drivers of mind wandering. When we move too fast, we can't land. We skim the surface of our own lives. The Harvard mind wandering study found that people spent nearly 47% of their waking hours thinking about something other than what they were doing. And this mind wandering, not the activity itself, was the strongest predictor of unhappiness in the moment. Slowing down is, in part, a practice of returning, of landing in your own life. And the case for slowing down is not just psychological, it is written in the body. The evidence is substantial and worth taking seriously. Now, our autonomic nervous system has two primary modes: the sympathetic system, stress, urgency, activation, and the parasympathetic system, rest, digest, repair, recovery. A chronically fast paced life keeps the sympathetic system dominant, and this suppresses immune function, raises blood pressure, impairs digestion, disrupts sleep, and increases the risk of cardiovascular disease. Activating the parasympathetic system through slow breathing, rest, nature exposure, and unhurried activity is not a luxury. It is a physiological maintenance. The relationship between pace of life and sleep quality is direct and well documented. People who are chronically rushed report poorer sleep quality, more difficulty falling asleep, and more frequent waking. This matters profoundly because sleep is when the brain consolidates memory, clears metabolic waste products, and restores emotional regulation. Insufficient or poor quality sleep is among the strongest risk factor for depression, anxiety, obesity, cardiovascular disease, and cognitive decline. Slowing down in the hours before sleep, reducing screens, stimulation, and urgency meaningfully improves sleep quality. Now, here's where something fascinating is happening culturally. The slow food movement, founded by Carlo Petrini in Italy in 1989 as a direct protest against the opening of McDonald's near the Spanish Steps in Rome, has grown into a global movement with millions of members in over 160 countries. Its philosophy is simple: food should be good, clean, and fair, and eating should be an act of culture, pleasure, and connection, not simply a fuel intake. But the health case for slow eating goes beyond philosophy. Research shows that eating slowly, taking the time to chew, to taste, to actually pay attention to what you're eating, improves digestion, allows satiety signals to register, which reduces overeating, lowers blood glucose response, and increases meal satisfaction. Eating slowly is generally better for your body, and yet we eat at our desks, in our cars, in front of screens, shoveling food in as we move between tasks. The resurgence of slow cooking, whether in slow cookers, Dutch ovens, or traditional wood fired methods, is partly about flavour and nutrition, but it's also something harder to quantify. There is something genuinely meditative about putting a meal together in the morning, letting it do its work through the day, and sitting down to something that took time. It reintroduces patience, anticipation, and care into one of our most basic acts. It is, in miniature, a practice in the art of slow living. Speed doesn't just affect us individually, it shapes the quality of our relationships, and the data here is sobering. When we are rushed, we listen poorly. We finish other people's sentences, half attend to conversations while checking our phones, and move through social interactions as efficiently as we move through everything else. The result is that the people around us feel unseen, and we feel lonely, which is one of the defining paradoxes of modern life. We're more connected than ever and more lonely than ever at exactly the same time. The antidote is not complicated, but it does require slowing down. Full presence in a conversation, no phone on the table, no mental to do list running in the background. Actually looking at the person and listening to understand rather than to respond is one of the greatest gifts you can give another human being. And it is felt immediately. People know when they are truly being listened to. It is increasingly rare and increasingly precious. There's a reason that slow activities, cooking together, gardening, walking, sitting around a table for a long meal, playing board games, and crafting have become sites of genuine connection in a way that fast activities often don't. Slow activities create time, and time, unhurried and shared, is the raw material of real relationship. The rise of what you might call slow hobbies is one of the most heartening cultural trends of recent years. Sourdough bread baking exploded during the pandemic, not because people suddenly needed to make bread, but because they needed something that required patience, attention, and hands on engagement. Knitting, embroidery, pottery, woodworking, gardening, foraging, letterpress printing. All of these have seen significant revivals. They share a common quality: they cannot be rushed. And they teach you, gently and repeatedly, to be where you are. So, what are some slow activities worth rediscovering? Slow cooking and baking, gardening, growing food, walking, especially in nature, reading physical books, handwriting letters, crafting, such as knitting, sewing, pottery, woodworking, board games and cards, long meals with people you love, photography with intention, not just phone snaps, fishing, foraging, and beekeeping. So let's get practical. There are things you can do this week and over the longer arc of your life to build a slower, more intentional pace. I want to offer you both a short term and long term picture. There are things you can introduce immediately without changing anything structural about your life. The micropause. Before you start your car, before you open your laptop, before you pick up your phone, stop for 10 seconds. Breathe. Notice where you are. This sounds almost absurdly simple, but it interrupts the automaticity of constant forward motion and creates a tiny moment of choice. Single tasking. Choose one thing and do only that thing. No background podcast, no second screen, no phone within reach. Just this task, this moment, this level of attention. Research by Stanford psychologist Clifford Nass found that chronic multitaskers are worse at filtering irrelevant information, worse at switching between tasks, and worse at holding information in mind. Multitasking doesn't make us more productive, it makes us less. The slow meal. Once this week, eat one meal without any screens, without reading, without doing anything other than eating. Sit down, put your phone in another room, notice the food, the taste, the texture, the temperature. Eat slowly enough that you can actually register what you're eating. This one practice, repeated regularly, has measurable effects on digestion, satiety, and meal satisfaction. The deliberate walk, not the power walk, not the podcast walk, not the walk where you're mentally composing emails. A walk where you look around, where you notice the light, the trees, the faces of strangers, the smell of someone's garden. This is what the Japanese call Shinrin-yoku, forest bathing, and the research on its effects on cortisol, blood pressure, immune function, and mood is genuinely compelling. A technology Sabbath. 1 hour, one evening, one morning a week, no screens. Not reducing screens, none. The relief most people feel when they actually try this is telling. It suggests that devices are doing more to accelerate our pace than we consciously register. So let's look at some longer term changes to redesign your pace. These take more courage and commitment, but they are where the real transformation lives. Audit your commitments. Most people have said yes to far more than they can genuinely sustain. A commitment audit, looking honestly at everything on your plate and asking which of it is truly aligned with your values and which of it is obligation, habit, or a fear of disappointing people, is one of the most liberating exercises I know. Saying no is a slow living practice. Protect unscheduled time. In a culture that fills every gap, the radical act of leaving gaps intentionally, unscheduled time is not empty time. It is the space in which creativity, spontaneity, rest, and genuine connection can emerge. If your diary has no white space, this is worth addressing deliberately. Build a slow practice. Choose one slow activity, cooking, gardening, walking, a craft, an instrument, and give it regular, protected time in your week. Not to be productive with it, not to be good at it, simply to do it. The psychological literature on what Mahali calls flow, the state of absorbed, unhurried engagement, consistently links it to some of our highest moments of well-being. Reconsider your relationship with work. For many people, the pace of life is driven primarily by work culture, the always-on expectation, the glorification of overwork, the subtle pressure to be perpetually available. This is worth examining honestly. Some of it is genuinely beyond your control, but some of it is habit, and some of that is driven by assumptions that, if tested, would turn out not to be true. Boundaries around work hours, email-free evenings, and genuine lunch breaks are not sign of a lack of commitment. They are signs of someone who understands what sustainable performance actually requires. So let's go over the slow movement in brief. The slow movement is a cultural phenomenon that began with food. So we had slow food in 1989 and has expanded into slow travel, slow cities, such as Sit Slow, slow education, slow fashion, slow design, and even slow work. Its core argument is not that we should do everything slowly, but that we should do everything at the right speed. Fast when speed deserves us, slow when slowness does. The wisdom is in the discernment. Your weekly challenge for this week is the Slow Sunday experiment. Choose one day this week or in one half day if a full day feels impossible and declare it a slow day. No schedule, no to-do list, no rushing. And the rules are simple. No screens for the first hour after waking. Eat at least one meal slowly at a table with no distractions. Spend at least 30 minutes outside, walking without a destination or a podcast, just walking. Do one thing with your hands. Cook something, make something, tend to something, fix something. Have one unhurried conversation with another human being. No phones on the table. At the end of the day, notice how you feel. Not what you achieved, how you feel. Write it down in your worksheet because that data matters. And the point of this challenge is not to convince you that every day should look like this. It's to give you a reference point, a felt sense of what slower actually feels like in your body and your mind. So you have something real to compare the rest of your week against. Welcome back. Before we close out, let me walk you through the companion worksheet for this episode, because I think it's one of the most useful ones we put together. The worksheet is in three parts, and it's designed to be something you sit with slowly, which feels appropriate given what we've been talking about. Give yourself a quiet 20 minutes with it, and ideally not between meetings or tasks. Part one is a personal pace audit. It asks you to take an honest look at what your current relationship with speed, where it shows up, where it costs you, and where you can already feel the pulls towards something different. There's a self-rating scale across several dimensions of your life, and some reflection questions designed to help you locate exactly where the pressure is coming from and what it's doing to you. Don't rush this part. The irony of rushing through a slow living worksheet is not lost on me. Part 2 is your weekly challenge journal, structured around the slow day experiment. There's space to plan your slow day in advance. Capture how it actually went across each of the 5 elements and write a reflection on how you felt at the end of it. I want you to really sit with that reflection question, not what you got done, but how you felt. For many of us, that distinction is itself a revelation. And part 3 is your slow living intentions. Now, this is a short, forward looking section where you identify one temporary slowdown practice and one longer term change you want to make, and write a specific, grounded commitment to each. Vague intentions fade, specific ones have a chance. The worksheet is designed to help you get specific. So let's bring it all together. Today, we explored what it might mean practically, psychologically, physically, and socially to live a little less like we're always late for something. We started by looking at why modern life has accelerated the way it has, the industrial inheritance that tied time to virtue, and the digital age that collapsed the boundary between work and rest. We saw how busyness has become a status symbol, a cultural construct, not an inevitability. We went into the psychology, how chronic rushing keeps us in low grade stress. It narrows our thinking and drives the mind wandering that research consistently links to happiness. We looked at the signals that tell us slowdown is necessary, from the early warnings of depletion to the full stop of burnout. And we talked about the deeper gift of present that slowing down makes possible. We explored the physical evidence, what a chronically activated sympathetic nervous system does to the body over time, the relationship between pace and sleep quality, and the genuine health benefits of eating slowly and moving gently. We celebrated the slow food movement and the meditative quality of slow cooking as a practice in itself. And we talked about the social dimension, how speed erodes the quality of our listening and our presence, and how slow shared activities are some of the most reliable generators of genuine human connection. And we got practical. Micro pauses, single tasking, slow meals, deliberate walks, technology Sabbaths, and the longer term work of auditing commitments, protecting white space, building one slow practice, and reconsidering our relationship with work. So, your challenge this week is a slow day experiment. One day or half a day, live at a different speed. No screens first thing, a slow meal, a walk without a destination, something made with your hands, and one real conversation. At the end of it, notice how you feel. I'll leave you with a thought from the writer Milan Kundera, who once wrote that speed is the form of ecstasy the technology revolution has bestowed on modern humanity. It's a beautiful and slightly unsettling observation because ecstasy, by definition, takes you out of yourself. And what we're talking about is the radical, culture control, deeply human act of coming back in. So, thank you for slowing down long enough to listen. And that matters more than you might think. Remember, be curious, stay humble, and keep growing. If this episode resonated with you, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. Tag us on your socials and leave a comment where able. If you'd like a copy of the accompanying worksheet or simply want to share your story or would like to be a guest on the podcast, reach out at contact@thebetterhumansproject.com. This is Greg Pfeiffer, and this is the Better Humans Project podcast. Let's keep building better humans together. Until next time, take it a little slower out there. Take care.